this is a continual process for us to evaluate, our allies and the strategic value of transferring arms to them. I think I might ask for
When it comes to global security, one question is becoming harder for the United States to answer: who comes first? During a recent House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing, Scott Perry put that question directly to Michael P. Duffey, and it revealed a growing challenge inside U.S. defense policy. At the heart of Perry's concern is something simple but critical: when America sells weapons to its allies, how does it decide who gets priority? That might sound like a technical issue, but right now, it's anything but. The U.S. is supporting multiple partners across the globe, from Europe to the Indo-Pacific, while also dealing with limited production capacity at home. There are only so many missiles, aircraft systems, and defense platforms that can be built at any given time. So when demand spikes, as it has in recent years, someone inevitably has to wait. Duffey's response made it clear that prioritization isn't based on favoritism. Instead, it's driven by a mix of national security interests, urgency, and existing commitments. In other words, the U.S. tries to balance long-term allies with immediate crises. Make sure you listen till the end, otherwise, you might miss it when it cuts off.
Thank you. I now yield to the gentleman from the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Thank the chairman. Thank you, gentlemen, for being here. I'm going to start with kind of an example, and I'm going to probably focus on Secretary Duffey and Mr. Brown for the answer. Congress has basically said we want to build 2 Virginia-class submarines per year, but I think we're down to about 1.13 as of 2024, and out of 48 attack-class submarines, only 32 of them were deemed operational, which is less than the Navy's goal of 66 submarines. Now, that's all in context with us helping out our friends, our allies, so to speak, in AUKUS to sell a proposed 3 to 5 Virginia-class submarines to Australia by the mid-2030s. And so my question is kind of general. I've seen it and heard the tenor of your answers in the same vein, but we're talking about our allies, whether it's Turkey, whether it's Australia, whether it's Great Britain. But I'm wondering, and look, I applaud the administration and your work to streamline FMS. It has been cumbersome and troublesome ever since I've known about it, where we want to help the people that want to help us and make it easy for them to help us. But I'm wondering if you can walk us through the process by which we continue to consider our allies, so to speak. I mean, the gentleman from Florida brought up Turkey as an example, but things are changing around the globe, and I think we can see that right now with some of the responses from our so-called allies regarding the current situation. So is there a process, if you know one, that reviews the support from our allies, and at what point do allies are they no longer allies, whether they're in NATO or AUKUS or something else? Is there some red line that you're aware of? As American citizens, as people in the administration, as people that advise the administration and carry out the administration's orders, I'm just wondering if either of you can speak to that question, so to speak.
Yes, Congressman, thank you for the question. I think this is a continual process for us to evaluate, our allies and the strategic value of transferring arms to them. I think I might ask for Mr. Miller's help here, but in our original executive order in 2025, there was a specific task to kind of reassess who our partners were and how we prioritize the sale of arms to those partners. Can you elaborate on that, Mike?
Thank you. Thank you, Congressman. Very briefly, as Honorable Duffey mentioned, there are 2 executive orders talk about setting priority partners and capabilities, and that's also reflected in the America First Arms Transfer Strategy, which speaks to the need to prioritize exports to partners who are supporting U.S. interests. I would also point that as has long been an element of strategy, it's also reflected in our conventional arms transfer policy, how we review arms transfers and how we view those relationships. And it's reflected very deeply in the technology controls that we apply based upon the reliability of a partner. Do they have the capability and the intent to protect U.S. technology and thereby protect the U.S. military warfighting edge? So these are all elements that factor into our decision-making led by our colleagues at the State Department on arms transfers.
Mr. Brown, do you have a comment before I kind of refine my question?
Totally agree with Mr. Miller and Undersecretary Duffey. Everything is examined on a case-by-case basis for each country, for each sale. So we make independent decisions that can be made at a time and also throughout the process.
So is it generally just to protect the technology, or is it also, does it also include in the term ally their willingness to stand with America in times of consequence and crisis vis-a-vis our shared enemies?
I think what drove the thought behind the reissuance of the prioritization was very much how are they both standing with America and willing to provide for their own self-defense.
And you're saying you review that on a case-by-case basis, country-by-country, weapon system by weapon system. I hope that's the case. I'm not sure I believe it, but I hope is that what you're telling us?
I don't personally, but the process has inputs from the combatant commanders, the ambassador team in the country, and my colleagues at the Department of War.
Well, look, I know we're in a strategic competition, particularly with China, and so I appreciate Australia's willingness to be helpful, so to speak, their need for the submarines. But at the same time, when we can't produce what we need to produce, and where we can make all the decisions in a situation of kinetic activity, I'd rather us have them than allies that aren't always there. And I think the current circumstance is a good indicator of when times get tough, who's really going to stand with us. With that, Mr. Chairman, I yield.
But here's where things get complicated. If a country is actively facing a threat, should it jump ahead in line? And if it does, what happens to long-standing partners who have already signed contracts and are now forced to wait longer? That's the tension Perry was highlighting. Because delays in weapons deliveries don't just create logistical problems, they can create strategic doubt. Allies may begin to question whether they can truly rely on the U.S. in a moment of need. And in geopolitics, perception matters just as much as reality. There's also a bigger issue looming in the background: America's defense industrial base. For years, production levels were designed for peacetime efficiency, not sustained global demand. Now, with multiple conflicts and rising tensions worldwide, that system is being stretched thin. Ramping up production isn't something that happens overnight. It takes time, investment, and political will. So what we're seeing in this exchange isn't just a policy debate, it's a warning sign. A warning that the U.S. may need to rethink how it equips its allies in a world where demand is no longer predictable, and where delays could carry real consequences. In the end, Perry's question didn't just ask who gets weapons first. It asked whether the United States is truly prepared to meet the moment. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you never miss an update.